Roadfly.com, the internet's best resource for buyers, sellers, and owners like you.
Hi, I'm Ross Rappaport with Roadfly.com. Thanks for watching this episode of RoadflyTV. Today is a fun day for me. I get to drive a car that I've always been curious about, the Mazda RX-8. If you don't know much about this car, then here's the short version. It's one of the most athletic sports cars on the market, with a few very unique twists. The first is the engine. The RX-8 is the only car that I know of that currently uses a rotary engine as opposed to a traditional piston engine. Unlike a traditional combustion engine, the rotary doesn't use pistons. Instead, it uses a triangular-shaped rotor that moves continuously, thereby avoiding the mechanical stress of a piston's perpetual reciprocating motion. That enables the RX-8 to reach truly stratospheric engine speeds while putting less stress on its parts. This little engine produces 232 horsepower and 159 pound-feet of torque, which is remarkable considering it displaces just 1.3 liters and weighs less than 250 pounds dry. All that sounds right up my alley. I have a huge soft spot for cars that rev to 8,000 RPM and beyond. My current car does it, the car I owned before that does it, and I can't wait to get in this thing and make some noise. But there's probably some things I should talk about first. For starters, the RX-8 is actually a four-door. So honestly, you gotta call the RX-8 a true four-seat, four-door sports car, which makes it a lot more practical. And I also really like how they've executed this. There's the transmission tunnel running all the way back, giving the rear passengers some storage, their own little personal space, rather than trying to squeeze in a fifth seat for show. And the only problem is that the rear seats don't fold down, but there is a handy little pass-through for longer items. The RX-8's cabin is relatively no-nonsense, though there are some visual aids to remind you that you're driving a rotary engine sports car. For example, the cutouts in the headrests of the seats, or the general shape of the shift knob. You sit low in this car, and like any sports car, there are some quirks. For example, the pedals are a bit off-center and quite close together, so it's easy for your left and right foot to collide while you're doing the brake and clutch dance. To avoid this, you have to keep your right foot deep in the footwell on the weirdly shaped gas pedal at all times, and then you can just slide it over to brake since they've recessed the brake pedal so thoroughly. Anyway, I've seen enough. Let's get on the road. If you've ever ridden a 600cc Japanese sport bike or driven a VTEC Honda, the way the RX-8 builds power will be quite familiar to you. In my opinion, there's something magical about being able to rev a car beyond 8,000 RPM. But this car doesn't really have the crazy top end of those VTEC Hondas. I keep waiting for it to overwhelm me at 7,000 RPM or 8,000 RPM, but it just never happens. It just builds the power steadily. And a good driver will get to 60 in around 6.5 seconds and knock down the quarter mile in probably mid-14 range. One major drawback to this car, and this is one I can't refute no matter how much I like it, is fuel economy. An EPA estimated 16 miles per gallon in the city and 22 miles per gallon on the highway is just, I don't know how to say it, but it's not great, especially considering this car only weighs 3,000 pounds. So I think you can chalk that up to one disadvantage of the uniqueness of the rotary engine. Now, handling on the other hand is an entirely different story. With the light weight of the rotary up front, this car achieves a near ideal weight distribution of 52-48. And with double wishbone suspension up front, this car really dances while remaining quite comfortable. And that makes this car very controversial in the enthusiast community. Some will argue that it's not a very compelling package due to its combination of middling fuel economy, lack of blinding speed, and need for constant preventative maintenance. But my opinion is, if you're even considering this car in the first place, you really owe it to yourself to give it a shot before you write it off. The reason I say that is, most enthusiasts will put a price tag on a car's uniqueness. And this is a pretty reasonable price for a car that's as unique as it gets. It's a lightweight sports car with 4 doors and 4 real seats, as well as an engine type not shared with any other car in the world. For around 33 grand for our test car, you're all set. And if you don't need leather or a sunroof, you can probably get in one for like 27 or 28, which is really a very reasonable price. I'm Ross Rappaport. Thanks for watching this episode of RoadflyTV. Please join our YouTube community, leave me some comments. I'd love to hear from you. If we had any doubts about the RX-8's credentials as a true sports car, they've been effectively put to rest, because only a true sports car can get stuck in an inch of mud.
Roadfly.com, the internet's best resource for buyers, sellers, and owners like you.